Hello, and welcome back to Improvement Roulette. Today, we're going to talk all about a control plan, right? This is something that I think many of us may think isn't very exciting, but it's actually the thing that's going to get us the most benefit when we do an improvement project. I'm Amanda Zimmerman. I'm a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, and I've been helping businesses for over a decade make their processes better, safer, faster, and more efficient. Today, we're going to talk about some examples around a control plan, and we're going to use that example of a coffee shop. Now, I know for me, before COVID, I spent many hours in coffee shops. So hopefully that's going to start again soon as we get more people vaccinated. I do look forward to spending more time in coffee shops, not just running in or out. Now, when we talk about a control plan happens at the end of an improvement project. So let's say for the coffee shop example, let's say you have a little coffee shop and you've had this issue with your equipment going down, maybe your grinder or your espresso machine, and it keeps going down and keeps going down. And you do this big project to improve the reliability. And you find out there's some preventative maintenance and some predictive maintenance that you might want to do, and you want your employees to continue. And if they continue to do this maintenance on a regular basis, then you will maintain your equipment. You won't have to replace it as frequently. You won't have to have people come out so frequently to work on it. So you've done this whole big project to identify that maintenance schedule, and you've told everybody about the maintenance schedule. You've trained everybody on the maintenance schedule. Awesome, great. This project sounds good. You've seen benefits, but now it's 2 months later, it's 3 months later, it's 6 months later, and boom, you have another incident of downtime where your equipment did not stay reliable. And you find out you did not sustain those improvements. So what a control plan allows us to do is it pushes us to ask the questions now so that we put into place things that will sustain that improvement for the long term. For example, the questions I always ask people when we go into a control plan is, how are you going to make sure this continues whether or not you're here? So the hit by the bus, or I like the win the lottery. If you win the lottery, how are you going to make sure that this control stays in place, that this maintenance continues to happen? If all of your employees turn over, if all of them are different next year, how do you know that those new employees are going to sustain those changes? Now, this is where it becomes really important as we think about, a little coffee shop. You might have significant change. You might have significant turnover in your staff, and you don't want to have to maintain all of that. You want them to maintain that for you. So one of the ways that I've seen organizations go about this is to have maybe little visual cheat sheets. So you see this quite frequently where you'll have like a one-page laminated sheet that shows you the different steps. The other thing that we often have is daily check sheets. So opening and closing procedures that you check off that you've actually done those maintenance procedures. That also pushes people to ask that question of, what is this? What does it mean? How long does it take the grinder to grind the coffee? After a certain point, maybe you need to change those burrs, right? So let's go ahead and make that clear to our employees so it's really easy for them to see how to do it correctly and to sustain the improvements we've made. So the control plan, it can be formal. You can make a formal control plan where you talk about how you're going to sustain those changes and who owns each of those sustainment procedures. So that's a really big thing to consider as well, is who owns this? Who is going to make sure that it continues? And this is where I think a lot of people go wrong when they do their control plans, is they don't say the assistant manager, they say John. They say Suzanne. Suzanne's going to maintain this. Well, what if Suzanne leaves, right? Always use position titles. Don't use names. That's in any control plan, in any improvement project you do, always use position titles. So that's just a quick overview of what a control plan is, how easy it can be for you to go ahead and, after your improvement is done, ask those questions of, how do we know that this is going to continue? The other thing that you can do is you can have data. So you could actually have some graphs or some kind of metrics that show up that give you an idea if things are slipping. So many things nowadays are electronic. So you could have those check sheets that we talked about. Those could be electronic daily check sheets. And you could see if for some reason something wasn't getting checked. But what would probably be more reliable is some kind of check of the machine to see if that preventative maintenance had been done, or some kind of audit. So maybe once a month, the manager walks through and they make sure that those different activities have been completed, right? There's a lot of different options there, and it's really dependent on what works for you and your team. So make sure whenever you do any kind of improvement that you take the time at the end of the project when you've achieved all of these benefits to actually ask those questions of how do we sustain this? Who owns that sustainment? That is going to help you to maintain those benefits long into the future. So that's a fun one. I kind of want to throw coffee shop back in because I love the coffee shop examples. Hopefully we'll have more of those to come. Now tomorrow, we're going to talk about a florist. So you can see I like my flowers here. I have them behind me. And we are going to talk about point of use storage for a florist. So that should be pretty interesting, something very tangible. So that's exciting. I'll have to go maybe to my florist this time or tomorrow and really take a look at the different things going on there to get some ideas. Thank you so much for joining us today at Improvement Roulette. We look forward to tomorrow. We should be on at 10 again. We look forward tomorrow to seeing you again. And I hope that you are able to improve a little bit more each and every day so that you don't have to work so hard.